Jonathan Majors and his co-star fell through a window. The crew walked out. They are still shooting. They are looking to get replacement crew. The producer, his quote, "We are too busy being badasses, blowing shit up, to concern ourselves with their illegitimate strike." All these studios are allowed to create performers that are completely generated by AI. How badly is it going to replace our workforce? We're going to figure that out. Hello, welcome to the Actor's Guide to the End of the World podcast, where we talk about acting in Hollywood in a way people understand. I'm Econ Song, and this is
Rían Kelly. It's slow and deliberate today. Today. That's how I'm going to talk.
Follow us wherever you find your podcasts at Actor's Guide Podcast. We're on all social media for fun clips during the week. You know the best way to help out our podcast? Leave a review.
Cash in the mail.
Yeah, that too. And maybe share with a friend. Really appreciate it. And now a word from our sponsor. Has your agent forgotten your name? Been out of work for a while and need a boost to your clout? Uberazzi. It's like Uber for paparazzi. Now you can enjoy invasive press coverage everywhere you go with a touch of a button.
Getting Dunkin' Donuts in your sweatpants in the morning. Staggering drunk out of a club onto the sidewalk. Getting a Bieber smoothie at Erewhon.
Uberazzi. The only bad publicity is no publicity. Let's just get right into it. Union updates here. We are going to drop some bombs. Also, Jonathan Majors on his film set fell through a window. How that ties into union negotiations, we will discuss. You know, the glitz of the Oscars is over. Return my cummerbund. And now it's time to talk about the real work. Negotiating updates. We also have this story. Jonathan Majors, he was a rising star. He was going to be a huge star for Marvel films.
Well, Jonathan Majors hasn't been working because he was charged with harassment and assault. Is that right? Domestic assault? Convicted in 2023 of misdemeanor assault and harassment regarding a March 2023 altercation with his then girlfriend. So he was dropped from Marvel and
fired by his agents, and is making his comeback, which makes it even more interesting. Daily Wire.
Yeah, it's a conservative media site.
Can't write this stuff. Ben Shapiro, who is one of the commentators, actually always dreamed about being a film producer. And he came from a film background. So this ties into that. Daily Wire has been producing films with, it just so happens, a lot of stars who were previously canceled. So you see a through line here. So this is not a shock. Anyway, it's an action feature produced by Daily Wire. The crew last week is initiating a strike. The crew walked out. One of the reasons is Jonathan Majors and his co-star fell through a window. Jonathan Majors essentially fell on, you can watch the video, his co-star, J.C. Kilcoyne, it's roughly around 6 feet. He had to get stitches in his hand. He said, there's no issues. They survived. This gets better. I literally auditioned for this movie. So hearing this story hit a little differently for me. Is it me falling through a window? Thankfully not.
I only became aware of it recently when people were talking about it since this incident, and somebody mentioned that they passed on auditioning for this project because of who's involved.
As an actor, this is just good FYI for all of us because, hey, these are real circumstances. This is our life on set. The video is online. You can watch it. For those of you who are wondering how this can happen, the glass that they fell through, that was a prop window that was to be used for a stunt later on. For lack of a better word, negligent. If you watch this video, I mean, granted, they say 6 feet. That 6 feet's not great. Falling down 6 feet on your back. And it's kind of clear that Jonathan Majors is the one falling on this other actor. So if you looked at Jonathan Majors, that's not, like, Jonathan Majors was definitely okay, but you have Jonathan Majors, who's maybe 200 pounds, falling on you. By the way, if you are interested in this stuff, watch Crew Stories on Instagram and Facebook, because this is the type of news of this is what happens on set. This is why we have contracts. This is why we have safety on set. This is just one of the things that happen on set for the crew to walk off. The special effects supervisor, Chris Bailey, previously pled guilty to having illegal explosives on set. They had one location that was understood to have asbestos and was suggested that they have it checked. They didn't, insisted on having that location, and it just so happened it had black mold. this is not just about Jonathan Majors. This is about set safety. It was most likely non-union. They initiated a strike and they called on IATSE. IATSE comes in to negotiate with the producers. So that's kind of like how it would go. As far as the actual film with the actors, it was a SAG contract. They didn't have meetings with the production heads. There was a possibly, questionable special effects supervisor. Granted, this is an action film with Jonathan Majors. Their last film had a $2 million budget. They have money. They are picketing. And right now, they are still shooting. They're looking to get replacement crew. So this is kind of like what it means when you cross picket lines, quote unquote scabbing. There is crew striking this set. And if you cross those picket lines, that's what the labor, this is union action right here. The producer, his quote is, "We are too busy being badasses, blowing shit up, flying helicopters, and killing movie terrorists to concern ourselves with 4 assholes with signs on the sidewalk and their illegitimate strike." This is their response to the union action on set.
Their attitude is, we don't give a fuck about these protests. I mean, it's probably a good lesson to stay away from these types of films. You know what I mean? If you don't agree with who you're working with, it's well within your power to say no. It's okay to say no. You have to trust who you're working with. The character of the people you're working with matters, and that goes from the top down.
This is an interesting nuance in an industry where there's less production, there's more non-union than ever, and we empowering actors as far as you do have a choice, and it's not all about the paycheck and the money. If you're a replacement crew, you're crossing picket lines and you're scabbing.
I think it's important to talk to actors about this, and even for younger actors, I wish people had let me know earlier. It's okay to say no to things. You know what I mean? There was a bit of a conversation about this yesterday in class. We talked about, I'm going to use the word trap for lack of a better term, but the trap of thinking that in order to be successful, you have to be available all the time. You have to kill yourself to get to everything, to do everything you can, to say yes to everything, to be working around the clock and to put your life on hold. And I've seen, and some other people were talking about this, that like more often than not, it's the people who aren't those things that are successful. It's the people that are okay saying no to things. That, it's not always the people that are most available, and as someone pointed out, even the most prepared. I think struggle is a mindset, and I think it's easy to fall into the trap because you're fed it from a lot of sides. You're fed it from, you'll hear a lot of stuff on social media, and you're fed this thing of you have to be available at all times. You have to get yourself tape in this. You have to do this and this and this. There aren't those rules. Yes, do your best work, but also live your life, and you don't have to be beholden to this thing because it will not reward you for breaking your neck and killing yourself.
And, this episode is very union focused, and this kind of sheds a light on all the talk that we've been talking about, non-union jobs, for all the actors who find themselves grinding and running the hamster wheel. It just so happens there is a lot of volume for working non-union jobs like we talked about last week. And these are the lines that an actor kind of has to decide for themselves. Political alignment, union. We can talk about FICOR. We can talk about all those lines. It's easier for Rían and I to answer these questions with no kids. And then there are a lot of crew members and a lot of artisans who have mortgage payments and a family to feed. That being said, the decision is always yours to make. So that was on set. Now let's get to the negotiating room. The SAG-Aftra negotiations with the studios. They were actually trying to wrap up the deal before the Oscars. Unfortunately, they didn't. Just to give an idea of the timeline, this contract technically ends June 31st. WGA initiated their negotiations, and this is just breaking news. An Actors Guide podcast exclusive here. We just heard word that the WGA and the producers reached an agreement. This is crazy. It's very quick. We are not going to speak about what those terms were, but we do see that it is an increase in the health plan. Also, for those that didn't know, the WGA union staff has been striking against the union for the past 2 months. Perhaps because the staff was striking, maybe that is part of the reason why this agreement got done so quickly. We don't know. That being said, SAG was going to resume their negotiations after WGA was finished. Now it's going to be a quicker timeline. I believe DGA starts in May. So this will shift some things. Does this fare well with the WGA? We'll see. But most importantly, as far as the SAG contract, the negotiations are probably going to resume quicker than expected. So that's big. As far as the stories that we're going to be fed through Deadline, it is very choice what they are sharing with us. The biggest story right now is the Tilly tax. We were so optimistic last week. We thought we were never going to talk about AI. And unfortunately, here we are. All we have heard from these negotiations and updates is this idea of the Tilly tax. Tilly Norwood, yes, our favorite synthetic performer, hence the name, the Tilly tax. It is very real.
Yeah.
All these studios are allowed to create performers that are completely generated by AI, and they're working out what is the penalty or price for that. The Tilly tax has come out, and you have comments from SAG-Aftra leaders. This story is coming out for a reason, because it's a slight bit of clarity from 3 years ago. They're feeding us this story because they want us to understand it for when we do vote on this. That's it.
Yeah.
This is a real thing. When we were all making fun of Tilly Norwood and all that stuff and how OpenAI and Sora 2 just got dismantled, people started mentioning the Tilly tax, and I was laughing, and I realized, this is actually the one legitimate piece of negotiation that they are talking about. Tilly Norwood just put out a huge, a full-on music video, a full 4 minutes music video. I'm amazed that no one actually talked about it or watched it. Rare as I ever do, I actually roasted it online. I watched it so no one else had to do it. And no one cared. Yeah. Like honestly, I was actually laughing my ass off. Cared. This is the first time anyone saw Tilly Norwood, quote unquote, act. Out of all the hype, it is cringy. I thought it was freaking hilarious. From what we knew 3 years ago, if the studio wanted to use generative AI, they would need to contact us, and they would need to contact the union and essentially bargain, hey, what is the compensation or penalty if we did create a synthetic performer? We're negotiating that if the studios use a generative AI performer, there's going to be compensation. That compensation is going to be the cost of what it would pay a real actor. Now, whether it's replacing Harrison Ford or you and I, obviously that's a different compensation. This is the talk. Now, obviously, a lot of us hate it. The problem is we can't think of anything better. And some people are calling it the best bad idea of 2026. If the studio says, well, we don't want one of these actors to do it, we will pay the day rate and a buyout and residuals. We'll give it to the union. And the question is where's that money go? They are deciding what fund, a fund just to put this money in, or some people are really pushing to put in the pension and health. The pension and health is the fund that finances all of our SAG-Aftra healthcare. That is the best situation of a really bad idea, is the generative AI performers are going to make money for us humans to get healthcare. These are the things that everyone's fighting 10, 12 hours a day talking about in the negotiating room, is the Tilly tax. Now, just let that sink in. Now we're getting, after 3 years, a little more clarity on, is this really going to happen? And so the window is slightly open for, if hypothetically we work with synthetic AI performers, let's just talk money. And this is the one thing that we know about the negotiations, when we still are fighting for fair wages and residuals from streamers. We're still wondering, hey, are there any ways that we can build production for our human members? All those questions. Unfortunately, a lot of the energy is spent with AI. You wonder, okay, you have a, indie film sets, and this is not a new story. People are trying to get around unions, replace crew in the negotiating room, studios possibly trying to get around humans. I'm not trying to be exaggerating here. This gets better. So aside from Tilly Norwood, the first generative AI series just got launched on Higgsfield.
On what?
Higgsfield is an AI platform. They completed the first official completely AI generated TV series. They launched the first pilot, is 10 minutes. It took 4 days. There was 4 directors behind it. We have talked about this. It's not going to replace Hollywood. That's fair. How badly is it going to replace our workforce? We're going to figure that out. I'm not going to post Higgsfield or whatever or give it more views, but you are going to see a lot of images and a lot of clips of this video, of this TV show online. Right off the bat, they looked at, they were designing the apartment and went through 60 different locations in essentially 10 minutes. Now, for anyone who's worked on a film set and location scouts, you look at 60 locations in 10 minutes versus the work and time of a real crew member to look at real apartments in reality and in the world, and you could see how drastically they're going to save money. Now, you're going to have to be the judge for yourself when you see these clips. It's consistent like what a real TV show would be. Am I going to show up to watch this TV show? Not necessarily. It looks pretty good for AI, but what I will say is this is more about the conversation. How much can we fight for human jobs? Because if you look at this main character, we believe, or I believe, that it's the social media influencer that's on Higgsfield. So they used his likeness to be the main character. They threw out the story saying that they paid someone $1 million to use their likeness to create a completely AI generated TV show. Not one real set, and not any person was a trained actor or got to a set. This show that could pass for a real TV show did not involve one person and one person on set. More specific to actors, they did pay these people to use their likeness. We don't know how much they were paid. Everybody who's giving away their likeness, if you're applying for a commercial job and say, hey, it's an AI startup company, obviously it's a red flag now, but 3 years ago it was not. I know people who took a quick paycheck and said, hey, this tech company wants to take pictures of your face and just doing expressions, and they'll pay you $500 during the strike, during the pandemic, and nobody knew what it was for. These are the contracts to a lot of non-actors who are getting licensed to create content. I mean, you can imagine there are many reports of actors regretting giving away their likeness to AI startup companies. Their faces popping up in freaking, health scam ads online. You have no idea where your face is going to pop up. Now, we've talked about voice being ripped off by AI, but, likeness and face, I mean, there's no limit to where you might pop up, and that could happen anytime, years later. A non-union commercial buyout, how are you going to track down your face if it just shows up on ESPN one day? We have to keep our eyes peeled. Imagine trying to keep your eyes peeled on the internet for your likeness. This is the new digital age, and this is becoming more and more what our world is like. We have a labor war that's on set. We have the negotiating room, and then we have this AI digital world. So I guess the big question is Hollywood slowly cutting humans out? Is this the work that's going to be out there? And maybe it's not all about the money, and we have to say no to these jobs.
I mean, it's the same thing again. Like it was the last strike was pretty heavily directed in that area. A lot of people felt that protections didn't go far enough. We're back at it again 3 years later. So I don't know. Like it's I have to sort of limit myself to what I can control. I think, I still think AI is janky and weird to watch. Sometimes I come across it on Instagram videos and it looks like AI. It's frustrating. If you go on YouTube and you look at YouTube shorts, everything is AI assisted and awfully, like I hate this trend. Like I and maybe that's a failing on my part where I'm not embracing it in some way, but it's so, I have such an aversion to it that
I mean, here's the thing, Rían, you and I are very similar, and I'm glad that you have an AI aversion, because to be honest, you give me hope, because I hope more people have an AI aversion. Some people are going to watch this and it's going to get better. I'm just worried about the shrinking workforce for us when we're trying to get production in California. It looks like this AI used real people. And by the way, just so people understand this idea of likeness, when you do a non-union commercial and you do a buyout, you get paid $1,500. And in those, well, I mean, obviously I'm just throwing out that figure. A non-union buyout, you're licensing your likeness and usage to be put on billboards and social media ads and so on. And they can use it for a year. That $1,500 is how much your likeness is worth, and they could use it unlimited. Versus a union commercial, they would pay you by, depending on usage. And that's the difference between $1,500 for your likeness versus $30,000. Taking it from the digital and the abstract to this might be what our likenesses are worth.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And read your contracts. And this is also for all the people who feel removed from the union. These are things that we have to vote on. And I'm praying. This is me talking about this is me putting it out into the world and praying to stay optimistic, because I'm praying that our union leaders, and I do believe in Sean Astin, I think he's a great leader, but I'm praying for them at this negotiating table to not fuck it up. And I am a little scared, and I'm embarrassed to admit that. To make this more real, part of the negotiations 3 years ago was the streaming bonus. We could not get revenue sharing and a bigger part of the pie from the streamers, Netflix and Disney Plus and so on and so forth. And we got a streaming bonus. If a show performs very well in the first 90 days, the money gets thrown into this imaginary fund that we have little details on it. A lot of us wanted more, but that's what we got. And this is also a shameless plug. And if you watch DTF St. Louis on HBO Max, you might see me in the first episode.
There you go.
If you watch it on HBO Max, and enough people watch it, which I think it actually has a chance of hitting the streaming bonus, you might hear firsthand. I will tell you the details if this streaming bonus is real. And I will be absolutely transparent with you. A lot of us hate this idea of the streaming bonus because we wanted a bigger part of the pie with the streamers and the residuals. That's where I'm going to land on this. And we can have a nice, real world moment. But this is where my head is at. We're just wrapping our heads around it. I'm not pulling the alarms.
Well, I mean, I think you educate yourself as much as possible. If you're in the union, you get to vote for people who echo what you would want and will hopefully protect actors, because that's all the control we have. I mean, we can't protect crew. We can't in the same way.
And also, I will admit, because our audience is very international, a lot of this actor community, the things that we were fighting in our contract does carry over and is used in a lot of British union contracts.
UK equity.
Thank you. A lot of our fight is fighting for the same fight. That brings up a big question, is what can we control? This is why we talk about the union meetings. This is why we talk about the W&Ws, talking about it like this. We're letting the union and the union's leaders know what we care about when they fight for these, when they fight at these negotiations. This is what the W&W meetings were for. W&W stands for Wages and Working Conditions, which were meetings that SAG-Aftra held for all members. You talk about these issues, and they go to the table, and they sequester themselves hours and hours and days and weeks trying to hammer out these points, and hopefully we get a great contract. We are part of this. And I'm realizing this after the contract negotiations last year, and I'm trying to maintain optimism, and I'm trying to keep up to date with what's going on, because we're going to be voting on this contract. How much can we fight for? What are we fighting for? I mean, here's the thing. SAG does see this stuff online. I know for a fact they see my videos. Now, not to elevate myself, but they hear what people are saying. I try to be fair, and sometimes in the past I've been critical. But I know that they hear this stuff. But this is the conversation. They want us to know what we think. They want us to know what we care about. And this is that. So what can we control in this drastically changing Hollywood landscape with these stories happening this week? It's saying something. And I think this is a great conversation. Anyway, so there you go. There you go. Union update, everyone.
That's it.
Fighting the good fight. Stay with us. Hidden gems.
Hidden gems. Yeah, I've been doing some SAG-Aftra conservatory classes, which is a great it's a great facility where you can just pay a yearly subscription fee, which I think was 40. I think it's 60 now. But you're eligible to go to all of these events, for free then after that. There's classes, there's workshops. Yeah, I did a stand-up comedy workshop with a woman called Mary Gallagher, I believe she pronounces her name, being American. But that was cool. Like, I'd never done any stand-up, and it was a really good insight into... Yeah, I'll throw this in as my hidden gem, because I found her really... she made stand-up comedy seem very accessible, and she was very good at explaining different sort of techniques that people use. It was a big class. It was I think she expected about 12 people. 120 people showed up. So
oh my God, was this online?
It was much more of a... No, it was in person.
Wow.
It was at the James Cagney boardroom in... the SAG-Aftra building here, and it was great. People stood up and did different things, and people came up and were vulnerable, and then there was a number of people in the class who were determined to show that they were the funniest person in the room, and she dealt with them very effectively as well. I thought she was very compassionate, but it was she has a website. It's myfriendmary.com.
Oh,
and that's her website. She does also classes for women in comedy. She does various different stand-up workshops and stuff. So I think you can go to her privately, but I just went as part of the SAG-Aftra Conservatory, and it was brilliant. I mean, it really, the idea of heightening things, the idea of just being truthful. Like when people came up and they were just honest about stuff, it got a laugh because people identified with it. It was a really eye-opening look into comedy, and great for anybody who's thinking about stand-up or doesn't know where to start, rather than just dive into an open mic and try and write 2 minutes of material. But it was great. So Mary Gallagher, myfriendmary.com, and that is one I definitely recommend.
Oh, nice. I mean, who knows? We might have you go into all that stuff in another episode. So my hidden gem, this is one of my favorite events. It's a food event. It is for a great cause. It's called Masters of Taste. I went to the media preview recently, and it was great to see. It's kind of like a big family for me, because a lot of my foodie friends, but it is an incredible cause. It's at the Rose Bowl. You can buy tickets. I believe there's still tickets available. It's huge. April 19th in Pasadena. I know this is very local, but it is good for those in town to know. It's the top food and drink vendors. It's great people. And all the proceeds go to Union Station Homeless Services. They raised over, millions of dollars for the past 7-8 years. This is the 8th annual. I mean, I love them. And, trying not to be biased, it really is the best food event in LA.
Is this the one that we went to in
No, that was
Culver
actually a
City
smaller one. That was actually a smaller one. Imagine how big that one is, and then maybe 5-6 times that at the Rose Bowl. It's literally at the Rose Bowl Stadium in Pasadena. So it's a really great...
But you can still get food to eat?
Yeah, of course you get food to eat. Like, what do you mean? It's literally entire stadium.
The Rose Bowl is basically a stand, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of seats.
Oh.
How do they...
Well, it's on the field. So all the vendors set up on the field.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's a good.
So you walk down onto the field.
That's
do
actually
you just sit and watch people prepare food?
That's hilarious. That's a good clarification. You're on the field at the Rose Bowl, and you're stubbing your face, and there's drinks, and all the proceeds go to Union Station Homeless Services. So it's a really great cause. It's a really great family. It's a really great organization. Can't vouch for it enough. I'll put the links and the information in the description. So that's it. That's our hidden gems, everyone. Thanks for listening,
Excellent.
and we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.